So Joe Biden, or as we call him, Handsy Uncle Joseph, he officially announced his 2020 campaign. We all saw this coming from a mile away. There was no surprise here. Now, I have to say I'm a little bit saddened and disappointed by Trump's nickname for Joe Biden. He went with Sleepy Joe Biden, which I got to be honest with you, doesn't even make sense to me. Because he uses Sleepy Chuck Todd or Sleepy Eyes Chuck Todd, which I think is actually kind of funny because it kind of does fit him, the Sleepy Eyes thing. For Joe Biden, Sleepy doesn't really fit, and he's also kind of recycling nicknames. So Trump's fallen off his game here in terms of nicknames. And usually that's one of the very few things he does that I laugh at and I enjoy. So, huge fail. I mean, I guess somebody made the point to me, he can't call him Handsy because Trump is also handsy. You know, grab him by the pussy tape, obviously, among many other things. I mean, there's been countless stories of Trump being at least as bad as Joe Biden, if not worse, in this department. So somebody said, well, you can't really call him that for that reason. But my response to that is, Trump doesn't give a fuck about hypocrisy. Like, that wouldn't occur to him for a second. Like, oh, I'm kind of guilty of the same shit, so I can't do it. No, he'll just bulldoze through and keep going. So I don't think that's a really good reason to not do it, because Trump has already made clear that his position on hypocrisy applying to him is, don't give a shit. And he'll stick to it so much that eventually people would forget about it anyway. But anyway, let's take a look at Joe Biden's official announcement video here, and then we'll come back and break it down. And of course, I'm going to dive into his record so you know the real deal about Joe Biden.
Charlottesville, Virginia is home to the author of one of the great documents in human history. We know it by heart. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. We've heard it so often, it's almost a cliche, but it's who we are. We haven't always lived up to these ideals. Jefferson himself didn't, but we have never before walked away from them. Charlottesville is also home to a defining moment for this nation in the last few years. It was there on August of 2017 we saw Klansmen and white supremacists and neo-Nazis come out in the open. Their crazed faces, illuminated by torches, veins bulging and bearing the fangs of racism, chanting the same anti-Semitic bile heard across Europe in the 30s. And they were met by a courageous group of Americans, and a violent clash ensued. And a brave young woman lost her life. And that's when we heard the words of the President of the United States that stunned the world and shocked the conscience of this nation. He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides? With those words, the President of the United States assigned a moral equivalence between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. And in that moment, I knew the threat to this nation was unlike any I had ever seen in my lifetime. I wrote at the time that we're in the battle for the soul of this nation. Well, that's even more true today. We are in the battle for the soul of this nation. I believe history will look back on 4 years of this president and all he embraces as an aberrant moment in time. But if we give Donald Trump 8 years in the White House, he will forever and fundamentally alter the character of this nation, who we are, and I cannot stand by and watch that happen. The core values of this nation, our standing in the world, our very democracy, everything that has made America America is at stake. That's why today I'm announcing my candidacy for President of the United States. Folks, America's an idea that's stronger than any army, bigger than any ocean, more powerful than any dictator or tyrant. It gives hope to the most desperate people on earth. It guarantees that everyone is treated with dignity and gives hate no safe harbor. It instills in every person in this country the belief that no matter where you start in life, there's nothing you can't achieve if you work at it. That's what we believe. And above all else, that's what's at stake in this election. We can't forget what happened in Charlottesville. Even more important, we have to remember who we are. This is America.
You know when the right uses the term virtue signaling? This is basically the exact definition of that. So this is his ad to announce his run for president, and the whole point of the ad is that, who, me, bro? I'm against, overt white supremacy. I'm against it when people march and scream, Jews will not replace us, and they say white lives matter. I'm against it, man. I'm against, Richard Spencer, and I'm against, the KKK, and I'm against neo-Nazis, bro, all right? I don't care who knows it either. Wow, Joe! Wow, how brave you are! What the fuck? Joe, we all file that under the duh category. I mean, that's like doing an ad and saying, me, bro? I just want everybody to know I'm against child rape. I don't care who knows it. I'm going to scream it through a megaphone. I'm going to say it from the rooftops. You know what else I'm against? I'm against murder. Please, heap praise on me for being so virtuous. The dude is stuck in 1992, bro. He's the... I actually thought that Joe Biden's political instincts were a hell of a lot better than Hillary Clinton's, but he's already making the same kind of mistakes that she made. He's already making these mistakes. So, just recently he said, I'm the most progressive, and I have the most progressive record of anybody who's running for president. And then he corrected himself because this was before he announced and said anybody who would run for president. So he's trying to say, me? I'm the most progressive. What do you mean? I'm the furthest left. That's what I am. What do you mean? Is there a question here? No. I'm the most progressive. Bernie Sanders, forget him. I'm the most progressive. So he said that. And then he also just said the other day, I'm not like Bernie Sanders. I don't think 500 billionaires are the cause of all of our problems. Wait, which is it? You were just saying you're the most progressive, and now you're slamming the guy who's obviously the most progressive in the race, and you're saying, why is he scapegoating billionaires, bro? Why are you doing that? Why are you having some sort of intolerance towards the rich? Where did I hear that before? Oh, that's right. That was in the WikiLeaks releases on what Hillary Clinton was saying behind closed doors. That we have the rigid bigotry and intolerance against the rich in this country. Yeah. Oh, who's going to give the billionaires a break? When will those guys get a break? Jesus Christ. Okay, so just at face value, here's what I despise about this ad. The shitty emotional music where they picked the most over-the-top music where it's obvious that they're trying to pull at your heartstrings by using tricks. Oh, isn't that music making you feel something? See, the music's playing, and he's also saying Nazis are bad. So brave, Joe. What a leader. What a leader you are. And then the other thing is, the ad was over 3 minutes long. He didn't mention a single policy. Not a single policy. Not even policy on the exact stuff, the exact focus of the ad. So in other words, the focus on the ad was white nationalist bad. Okay, well, are you even going to mention any policies about that narrow thing that you chose to focus on? No, he mentioned nothing. Nothing. He announced his run for president. It's 2019. He didn't say Medicare for all. He didn't say free college. He didn't say a living wage. Guys, he didn't even say... Because again, his whole focus here is on more race issues, but he didn't even say well, obviously what we need to do is dismantle this system, which has been unfair to black and brown people. So I'm in favor of ending the drug war, and I'm in favor of freeing every single nonviolent drug offender, because the drug war was used to disproportionately crack down on communities of color. So this is why some experts call it the new Jim Crow. because you just say, okay, well, we can't officially keep them down, as literal second-class citizens. So why not criminalize certain activities that the communities engage in and then disproportionately crack down on those communities? Joe, you could have easily said, let's free every nonviolent drug offender. You could have easily said that. You could have easily said, let's legalize marijuana. You could have easily said that. You could have easily said, let's get rid of the mandatory minimums, which are used disproportionately on people of color, even if a white person commits the same crime. He didn't say any of it. You want to know why he didn't say any of it? Because he doesn't believe that. He's just virtue signaling. There's no there. I'm a good person. Vote for me. Why? Because I'm so good. Don't you hear the emotional music in the background, bro? That means I'm good, bro. It's so gross. It's so gross. It's just fucking pandering. And the Charlottesville protesters, the media went and spoke to them, and they were like, we had no idea he was going to, try to use Charlottesville and what happened there for political gain for his launch ad. No idea. And I think, did he use the video of the terror attack? I could be mistaken about this, but I think they spoke to Heather's parents. That's the protester who was killed in a terror attack. And I think they were like, he didn't let us know he's going to do that, and we're kind of not cool with that. I could be wrong about that, though. You go back and check. Go back and check to see. I feel like I saw a headline about that. Go back and check to see if he used the video of the actual terror attack. And this is what he's been doing, man. He did this with Stacey Abrams, too. Him and his team floated all throughout the media. They called all their connections, and they have many. And they said, maybe is Biden going to pick Stacey Abrams early on as his VP? Is that what he's going to do? And all the outlets ran with it. And then they went and spoke to Stacey Abrams, and she's like, he didn't even come and support me in the race I just had. I just ran for governor of Georgia, and there was voter suppression, and I ended up barely losing to a monster. But he didn't even endorse me and come campaign for me. And now, when it's politically convenient for him, he pretends like, me? I'm down for the cause, bro. I care about strong black leaders. No, of course. Maybe Stacey Abrams is VP. See? Stacey Abrams is VP. And one of the biggest problems with Biden, make no mistake about it, is he was one of the authors of the crime bill, and he was one of the biggest proponents of it. So he was one of these tough-on-crime Democrats. And, of course, that, again, was disproportionately used to crack down on non-violent crimes and people of color. So all right, now enough about just the ad here. Let's get into specifics about Handsy Uncle Joseph. So, he's got a long history. What does he actually believe? What has he actually done? Forget his words of, I'm against white supremacy. Wow, Joe, how bold. Well, first and foremost, he voted for the Iraq War. Strike one, you're out. I know I say that a lot, but this is the real deal right here. I mean, this used to be considered something that disqualifies you from getting the Democratic nomination. It was for Obama. Remember, Obama used that and said, I was against the Iraq War. I was against it from the beginning. So maybe that shows leadership and judgment on my part. I'm not just going to go with the times. I'm going to maybe take a moral stand every now and then. So he was able to use that. Hillary Clinton voted for the Iraq War. We know what ended up with her. What ended up happening with her in the race against Donald Trump. But Joe Biden voted for the Iraq War. So strike one, you're out. There's no 2 and 3. You're done. But let's continue anyway. If you needed a strike two, he voted for the Patriot Act. Again, this is Hillary 2.0, man. Now, there is a slight difference between him and Hillary. He's actually a pretty solid debater, even though his record is trash. He absolutely dismantled Paul Ryan in the VP debate. But I still don't want to roll the dice, man. I don't want to roll the dice on a neoliberal centrist going back to the status quo pre-Trump, because that's what gave us Donald Trump. So the times have evolved. The times have changed. You know, people want the details. People want the specifics. People want to know your commitment to the policies, and then if you don't deliver on that, you're a failure. But this is why do you think he brings up no policies in his ad? Because he wants to keep it vague. He wants to keep it vague because when he gets elected and he just kind of returns to the status quo, does some tweaks around the edges, he wants to be able to claim success and say, I'm a winner. What do you mean? I never said I was going to do Medicare for all, so I didn't get us Medicare for all. I never said I was going to do free college. I didn't get us free college. He hasn't spoken on it yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing what he says about these things. He's been dodging Medicare for all talk like the plague because him and his idiot advisors are like, how are we going to try to weasel our way out of this one? He also supported the repeal of Glass-Steagall. That, of course, helped lead to the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession. He's a Democrat for Wall Street deregulation. Let that sink in. He's a Democrat for Wall Street deregulation. Honestly, like the big cornerstone issues that defined an era, he was wrong on those decisions. Iraq War, Patriot Act, repeal of Glass-Steagall. He wrong on all of them. NAFTA, he supported NAFTA. Oh, God damn it. Now, hilarious because he makes this ad all about race and he's so woke. Joe Biden, early on in his career, he originally opposed busing desegregation. And he would gaslight everybody in the country, and he said, no. See, I totally agree with the end goal, bro. Like, I'm totally for desegregation, but just not this way. Just the buses, leave the buses alone. What? So you're for desegregation, but just on buses, keep the segregation. Unbelievable. He also supported the Wall Street bailout. He, of course, was one of the biggest pushers of the crime bill. He supported TPP. That's a huge red flag. Shows you he hasn't learned anything from NAFTA and all these other trade deals that he supported. He supported permanent normal trade relations with China, which is probably even worse than NAFTA in terms of all the job loss and how it devastated the American economy. He said Assad must go. So again, he didn't learn the lesson of intervention being bad from the Iraq War. He was still saying in the Obama years, Assad's got to go. He called Julian Assange, quote, a high-tech terrorist. So he's wrong on the very basic issue of the First Amendment and free speech and a free press. And oh yeah, by the way, he proposed a bill to make flag burning illegal. So massively unconstitutional, even Justice Antonin Scalia, who was insanely far right, said, there's no debate here. The government obviously does not have the ability to ban something like flag burning. That's free speech 101. That's free speech 101. Joe Biden was dead wrong on that. Now, there are some positives. I don't want to make it seem like... I don't want to do like a full false equivalence and say like he's as bad as a Mitch McConnell type character, because he's not. And, the neoliberal centrists are what they are. They're disastrous, but they're neoliberal centrists. And centrism is further to the left on the political spectrum than fucking far-right nonsense and fascism. So, he was good on the Iran deal. He was good on the GM bailout. Obamacare was better than nothing, and he obviously supported Obamacare. He authored the Violence Against Women Act. He's for some basic gun safety reforms. He has a voting record that leans pro-union, although it's not fully pro-union. I forget the number. It was one of, how they have the report cards for some of these issues. It was 70-some-odd% he voted. That's a lot better than a lot of the Republicans who would literally have 0%. But again, that's not saying much, man. Like, that's not saying much. I shouldn't have to do the analysis where I have to say, well, you're a little better than a Republican, because they're off the spectrum. They're off the spectrum. So in other words, you're like center-right or just right-wing, and they're off the spectrum to the far right. So it's just, like, I shouldn't have to get to that point when discussing a Democratic presidential candidate in the year 2019 running for 2020. I shouldn't have to bring that up. And then, I already touched on this, but he hasn't said a word about Medicare for all, and he's doing this bullshit lie of like saying, I'm not taking any lobbyist money. Well, guess what? You know what he did? That's right, he's not taking any lobbyist money. He cut out the middleman and went right to the executives. That's what it means. Like, a lobbyist is, okay, I'm going to represent the interests of these executives. He's like, oh, I'm not taking any lobbyist money. But that's totally misleading because he just cut out the middleman of the lobbyists and went right to the CEOs. In fact, literally, the day he announced he was doing an event with the Comcast CEO and GOP donors. So he is taking money from some Republican donors. I mean, come on, man. He is the epitome of the status quo. He's waving a flag that says, let's go back to the mild tweaks around the edges of the Obama years, as opposed to moving forward and transforming this country into what it should have been all along, which is a vibrant social democracy with universal health care, universal education, including college, paid vacation time, strong regulations to help the working class and to fight for working people. He is the representative of the old school. And I said it before, I'll say it again. Joe Biden is going to tank in the polls. I think he's going to tank in the polls, man. He ran for president at least twice before, and he got obliterated at least twice before. So he has the same problem Hillary Clinton does, that the idea of him to a lot of people is more appealing than the reality of him. So in other words, Hillary Clinton, when she was saying nothing, and before she jumped in the race, her approval rating was relatively high. They thought, oh, okay, whatever, Secretary of State, yeah, I guess totally competent, been around the system for a long time. And then she started talking and campaigning, and those numbers immediately plummeted. It's going to be the same with Joe Biden. The idea of Joe Biden, oh, yeah, sure, nostalgia, back to the Obama years, better than what we got now. We got a man baby in there now, at least Biden's an adult. Oh, yeah, I could totally see that. As soon as he starts talking, it's going to tank in the polls. Because at best, he's going to be contradictory. I'm the furthest left. Oh, no, I'm the most moderate. He'll say both things at once, just like Hillary Clinton. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, he just chooses the wrong strategy and just goes all in on, I'm the adult in the room and Medicare for all is stupid. Yeah, try making that case to the Democratic base. Over 80% of the Democrats disagree with you. You gonna piss off 80% of your base? Are you fucking kidding me? You'll get obliterated. By the same token, even 51% of Republicans are for Medicare for all now. The country, it's over 70% of the country wants it. So if he decides, I'm going to run as Mr. Centrist guy, I'm the adult in the room who's going to tell you no things that other developed countries do are possible in the United States. Okay, you want to run that way? By all means, you'll tank even faster than I could have predicted. So handsy Uncle Joseph is in the race, and TikTok until he becomes totally irrelevant.